guys, welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be installing some brick tiles on this wall behind here. The owners have asked for a feature wall with floating shelves. They've got some really nice recycled timber that they're getting done. We're installing the shelving, just the brackets onto the walls prior to installing any of the brick tiles, so that it has a really effective floating look. You're not going to be able to tell anything, see anything other than this part of the bracket will be sticking out. They're actually a brick that has been cut down to an 18mm thickness, and we're going to install it just like laying tiles on the brickwork. So we've already done the set out with the chalk lines that you can see on the wall here. We've opted to go with chalk lines, so we've got a full grid set out already of what our gauge is going to be. We've gone for an 86 gauge. It just worked really well down from the corners to the ground, giving us enough room under the bottom brick so that it's got vinyl flooring in here. It's going to slip under there nicely. When we were doing our set out, similar to how a bricklayer again would lay out his brickwork on an external wall, we took our overall measurement and we came into the centre of the room, and we thought which way do we want to set it out, because oftentimes you can either go from the centre out, or you might start half on the centre line. We've opted to creep the room a couple of millimetres over just because it works for our doorway over here. This doorway is going to have a 70mm architrave and barn style capping that's going to tie in, the wood's going to tie in really nicely with this recycled timber shelving. So that worked our gauge perfectly to come over to the side of where it's going to butt into the side of the architrave. So as you can see here, a lot of these bricks, as they are a recycled brick, some of them have damaged faces, some of them have bits missing, some of them have colouring, all sorts of features, but that's just going to make it look more attractive. So when we get into the brackets, we're just grinding out the thickness of the bracket out of the back of the tile, so that it sits on there, nice and flush. See that? It's just ground out on the back there, back of the brick, sorry, on the tile. So it sits nice and flush on the wall. Then let's sit. So we mark these out. Inside, held it in place, getting us our scribing line, cutting it in the thickness of the bracket, gives us a little bit of play, get a little bit of glue between the bracket and the brick. Some safety protection on. We're going to put a secondary datum point. We've already got one datum point just behind Travis' head here. It's got a big head that's in the way. We've had one central datum point. I'm going to run that one up further. But we're finding, as these are a recycled old school tumbled type of brick, they're a little bit variance in size. So we're actually going to run a second datum point over this side as well. Already marked it up here. Travis is too busy working, he's in the way. So pretty much found my other point that I want to work off here, and just leveling it up the line. Already marked it up with my 600 level, mark it up further with my 1200. one of the most important things to do is to buy products that are yellow and black, like DeWalt. Try to put an degree if he loves Milwaukee, but that's okay. So that's the very centre of the room. That's what we set our day on. Get my breathing apparatus on. I won't do any talking with this on because you can't hear anything through it. But yeah, basically where our brackets are on the wall, which we've looked at before, we've just marked them out on the back of the tile, on the back of the bricks. Basically going to cut out about 5 mil or not quite a 1/4 inch out of the back of the tile so that we can glue the back of the tile. The tile sits hard up against the wall and it's hiding our brackets that are on the wall. We'll have a look at that in a minute. That's why we're cutting them out.
If you want to go for a fashion statement, definitely, I mean, it would definitely help with the Rona as well.
So I had a chat with the owners. They wanted to go with a rustic type of a look. So we've gone with a beat down on some fresh Tasmanian oak that was nicely dressed. Now it's nicely beaten. The tools that I use, one of them being a fork, basically getting those smaller lines, back of the hammer and front of the hammer. And also the ruler. Gives it another little effect. back at it again. We are about to pull out all the gauge rods and spacers and everything like that. It's all looking very sexy. So yeah, I'll set the camera up and do a bit of a time lapse. They come out nice and easy. There's a few spots if the bleeded glue's got on them or things like that, that it can be a little bit tricky, but it's worked out really well. So that was we said an 86 gauge, which means basically a 10mm gap between the bricks, which is pretty standard with brickwork. Because the brickwork has tumbled edges, like because all the bricks have tumbled edges and lots of them, as you see ones like that there, there's a lot actually missing out of these bricks. So it's going to be fun to install the mortar, but it'll be good. It'll end up looking pretty cool. We're not going to pull too much out when we do the mortaring. It's going to be close to a flush finish, but a little bit of a rake out. So should be good. Here's the tools we're going to be using today. Quickly spoke about the grouting guns, piping bags, etc. Got some scraping tools for doing the flush mortar joints, a brush for brushing off, pretty coarse, not like a wire brush, but pretty coarse. Measuring cup, always handy. Going to use that specifically for trying to get really accurate on our mortar mixtures. We don't want to do big batches as we want to keep it just doing little sections at a time. So this little trick I want to show you. It's the easiest way you can tape up any wall, anytime you ever need to. You just go like this. Close your eyes, stick out your tongue. So ready to start mixing up some mortar. We're going to do a 6:1 ratio. So that's going to be 6 scoops of sand, 1 scoop of cement, and a half a scoop of hydrated lime. And we'll mix the water in accordingly. Probably a little bit wetter than you would normally make actual brick mortar, just to help it get through the tube a little bit easier. Still going to work just fine though. So we've got our 6:1 and a half combination mixture in there. 6 of sand, 1 cement, and half a cup of lime. Gonna add some water now and give it a mix up. So we're back at it. One more day. Been here for about 2 hours. Got up to these shelf rails last night. So done basically one bay in probably 2 hours or something like that, 2.5 hours. So it's a bit of a slow process, but it is going well. Everything that was done yesterday, looking pretty good, happy with it. So yeah, get back to it. So go back to the old Spur and Jackson, because it's working really well. Finding that just keeping the nozzle nice and clean, keeping the air bubbles out of it. So basically fill it up, however you want, scoop up, scrape up, whatever you've got. And then basically just tapping it like that. It's taking all the air bubbles out of it. Pressing her up, get the pressure on it. Just like that. Then, not gonna have any splurties out on the wall. But yeah, I'll show you up here. Actually, we'll do it in a minute. I'll finish getting all this, the rest of this bucket into the wall. I'm actually finding leaving it a little bit longer, it's easier to work. So I think there's that fine line of going, you don't want to go exactly 20 minutes. It's probably your first scrape out after it's set up is probably about 20 minutes. Then I've been installing a little bit more grout and then coming back and scraping off. So before I scrape, now that I've installed all this, before I scrape this off, I'll go back over from where we started this morning, over that whole lot. By the time I finish that, I'll be ready to scrape this off, then I'll install the next layer. So basically going through more and more, really getting the definition in the bricks is what we're up to now. See little bits and pieces. So one thing I just wanted to show you as well, don't be too worried, like you look at this and you think, ew, but it's actually not too bad at all. You get your little bit bigger trowel, literally coming on the 45 degrees, you watch as you cut it all out, cut all the excess off basically, like so. And these sections there that were looking totally yucky gross, start pushing them in. It's probably could probably have left it, I reckon, another couple of minutes, but it's getting to a much better workable time now. You see there, even little gaps like that. It's amazing. But yeah, as long as you got to let it set up for at least that sort of 20 minutes or so. Get your first scrape in. I don't know how other people do it, but I'm going a first scrape about 20-25 minutes after it's been put in, even 30 minutes. This is probably about 30 minutes. And then getting it like this, and then we go down to where we were. This is the previous section that we've already put in. And you see you can run it in, oh sorry, a little bit lower. So you can see a little bit lower where we've already been over it a few times. Then you're basically coming in and doing the refining work. Coming around the corners. Really gets a nice clean, get your clean lines. And even at this point here, that was need a little bit more taken out like this here. It probably took a bit much out. The cool thing is, take a bit too much out like that, simply grab some, make sure it's moist enough from the ground, not the moistest stuff. Just push it back in. It bonds up really well, as long as you get it pressured in like that. We'll just have to let that set up for a little bit longer again, but that's okay. Keep working our way through. And that's pretty much it. You just keep on working it to get to your desired texture. And once I've finished this section up to these rails is pretty much done. A few spots like that obviously I need to refine, like that. Then in another probably 20 minutes, I'll come through with the brush and brush that section off. All right, so all mortared in. Looking very, very nice.